Hello, this is Tom Brevoort. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast.
Yes, welcome back, loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. I am your host, KHONSHU Ray. As always, you are thrust with me in your ears. Anyway, this is an arc review. Glad to have you with us, and I've got a very special guest, no stranger to the show, the Power of Chad. Chad, welcome.
Hey, Ray. How's it going?
Yeah, good, Chad. Thank you so much for making the time to come on. It's always good to have you on. We've got some exciting comics to cover in our Over the Moon arc review for this episode. So we'll be looking at Dark Wolverine. Now, how do you say, is it Daken or Daken? How do you say it, Chad?
I say it Daken, but
okay.
I'm not sure what the official statement is.
Yeah, I don't know as well. I read it a lot. I just don't read it out loud. So let's say Daken, Dark Wolverine, Daken. It is issues 13, 14, and 15. Now, Chad, I did say to read 16, but I was reading that today, and that's a part one of something else. So I'm pretty sure we can drop it. It actually continues. It's quite seamless, these arcs, but we'll confine it to 13, 14, and 15. So, loonies, that is what we have tonight. It should be fun, something a little different. The arc review has Moon Knight in it, but he's not kind of like the protagonist. Very much a supporting cast member. Also, just before we get into that, I want to shout out to the Patroonies as well. Thank you, loonies that have pledged some of their coin on our Patreon page. So a big shout out to them. And also asked a couple of sponsors, Hello Headphones, empowering gamers to play their best. And also Dreamland Comics from Illinois, the superhero superstore. Thank you so much for those two great supporters and sponsors of the show. Now, Chad, it's been a while since we've chatted tate-to-tate. Actually, it has been a while.
Mono-y-mono.
Mono-y-mono. I feel like it's been a lot sooner, but that's because I've watched you in other episodes, i.e. the one that you and Phil, Drop King Phil, and Anthony, the senior Sitco, were in, which Chad was dubbed Smallwood. Very funny. So, I mean, I watched that video. I had a huge giggle and stuff. But it has been a while since we've really kind of chatted, haven't? I mean, we've done actually. The last one we were together, we actually did another arc review as well. We did the Hulk, a very obscure Hulk, and Moon Knight one as well. So this is
the worst Hulk, actually.
Joe Fixit. Yeah.
I was thinking about the prelude to the Red Hulk.
Oh, yeah. The whole, and look, Joe Fixit as well, I'm happy to say it. I mean, I'm reading a lot of Peter David's his run, his almost 10-year run with the Incredible Hulk, and the Joe Fixit era. And I tell you, I was reading issues 356 to 360 just today. The guy's a douche, an absolute douche, Joe Fixit. So I haven't never read them by Jeff Purves and Peter David. I was more familiar with it a bit later on, but yeah, what a crazy character that guy is. Chad, though, like in a seamless segue. So that's what I'm reading at this current moment in time. What's on your ledger at the moment?
Honestly, I've been mainlining a lot of like old Lovecraft material.
Oh, nice. Lovely.
So, not a lot of comics, just a lot of books.
Yeah, cool.
A lot of short fiction stories, but it's really there's no beating around it. It's weird. It's weird fiction, and sometimes there's no making sense of anything. So
you've read it before, though, haven't you? Like you've read Lovecraft stuff before.
not in its entirety. I'm trying to work through the Dreamland cycle stuff, and then probably going to go towards the what's it called? The Nyarlathotep cycle.
Oh, okay. Not too sure. I'm going to have to confer with you a bit later in the show to get the details so I can write it into the show notes. But that sounds good. That would keep you busy. Have you got time for comics at all, or?
I could, but I'm also playing video games, and I'm also working.
Yeah, for sure. There's only so many hours in the day, and you're using your valuable time now to jump on the show, so very much appreciated. Yeah, I mean, look, when we're recording, well, as we record this now, I've jumped back onto Marvel Unlimited, just because, why not? I've been reading a lot of comics to leave feedback for other podcasts, because I kind of find it's kind of like a reading. It gives me an incentive to read the old issues. So I thought, well, why not just get Marvel Unlimited? They've got like 27,000, 30,000 comics on there. And yeah, they've got about 90% of the stuff that I've been looking to read. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have Marvel Unlimited at all? You do? No, you don't? Okay, yeah.
No.
It's okay. I'm on the 7-day trial. So we'll see how it goes after 7 days, but I'm pretty sure I'll probably keep it. I don't know what else has been happening, Chad. What else has been happening in your neck of the woods?
I mean, pretty close to the 7 plagues, right?
Yeah. I must say. Well, let's hope. Touch wood. Let's hope. By the time this airs, because we are recording this a little ahead of schedule, almost like a month ahead of schedule. Let's hope that our future selves, and your future self in particular, is in a better place. Let's just say, let me expand on that. The rest of society, I think. Let's hope things have kind of resolved. I don't know if you can use that word, but let's hope at least some sort of, I don't know, something has been kind of achieved. But yeah, that would be keeping you pretty. Yeah, Is it stressful over there?
Well, it's gotten kind of bad in my neck of the woods because there was a bunch of. It got pretty close to being The Wrong Turn. Have you seen those movies?
Oh, they're horror films. Could be.
Yeah, it's horror films. Bunch of hillbilly types basically go ahead and abduct some people, try and kill them.
Oh gosh.
It's like The Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah. The Red State or something. Yeah, okay.
There was some folks that went camping out in our neck of the woods just to get away from the city and everything going on there. And essentially the locals believed that they were part of Antifa for some reason. And basically started felling trees around them to stop them from leaving. And it became this huge problem.
Jeez Louise, there are crazy stories everywhere, like all over at the moment on your neck of the woods, no pun intended. It's crazy. I've seen something on Facebook, someone was wielding a chainsaw just openly down the street. I don't know what's going on. Chad.
It feels like Dead Rising.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, actually, and while we're here and Patroonies are privy to a video, we might as well do it. So please indulge us, podcasters. Chad, what is your poison tonight? You just raised it, yeah. Yep.
So I'm drinking Jameson Caskmates.
Lovely.
It's Irish whiskey, and it's using craft beer barrels.
Oh wow! Yeah, I've never heard of. I'm not sure. Well, I haven't drunk Jameson in a while. Jameson, he's a nice drop. Wow. Does it? So you get the nice kind of essence of barrel.
Yeah.
Cool.
Essence barrel. Yeah, it's got kind of like this different taste than it usually does. It's a little bit lighter because it's Jameson in beer barrels rather than a beer in a Jameson bottle.
Yes, yeah. No, I've had, again, please indulge us, loonies, I've had Glenmorangie whiskey that has been, you know, what do you call it? It's been fostered in barrels that were port that used to hold port. So it's quite nice. So you have the essence of port there. But I've never seen that with the Jameson. So I've got to keep my eye out on the... We might do this as a regular thing, Chad. We might do a bit of... I don't know. I've always wanted to use the title Let's Get Sheet-Faced. So we might do a segment about drinking. I don't know. And somehow lose... Oh, that's what I want to do. Maybe on the show one time, Chad, we can, if you have the ingredients, I have the ingredients. I know there's a Moon Knight cocktail. We should make that.
What?
Yeah, we should make that on the show, like kind of... And for the Patroonies, we can actually demonstrate on the video, but we can do it on podcast as well. How's that?
I'm down for that.
Oh, I'm down for that as well. The reason I am down for that, loonies, is I am on the tipple as well. I'm going to show this to our Patroonie members. It's a New Zealand beer, Monteith's. It's because it's getting a little colder here, Chad. So it's just Monteith's Black, and it's like a stout, a dark, full flavored beer. Not as good as Guinness, because Guinness is... I love Guinness. Smooth, creamy, dark, heavy. It's like a whole dinner, isn't it? But Monteith is pretty good. It's nice. So I've got that to whet the appetite. Chad's got his Jameson. We're ready to go. Now, Loonies, also as well, just to let you know, as I mentioned, we are recording a bit ahead of time. So our white noise, our news segment... Chad and I, we can't really say anything now. Our past selves are ignorant to the current affairs that are happening now. So I'm going to cut to, fingers crossed, to our future selves, Chad. Hopefully you can make it. And we're gonna cross to some of the news with what's happening around the traps the last week. So take it away, future selves. Thank you, past selves. This is future Ray, or present day Ray, depending when, I guess. Oh, that's a bit weird. When you're listening to this and when I'm recording this, let's just call me future Ray. Anyway, on the news front, loonies, there's not much, and apologies, Chad is not with me for this. So despite what past Chad says later on in the episode, unfortunately his future self was not able to make this very slapdash news segment that I'm putting together in the nth hour. So anyway, fortuitously, there is not much to report other than basically on the Facebook group and the page, I did post up a preview for Avengers 34, Part 2 to the Age of KHONSHU. Now that is coming out when this episode drops, so on New Comic Book Day, Avengers 34 will drop, but there had been a preview that was released. I have not read it or looked into it myself, but it's there in the group and in the Facebook page. So if you haven't yet had a gander, or depending on when you do receive this, if you have read the issue 34, then don't worry about what I'm saying. But anyway, there is a preview that had come out. While I have the opportunity, I might as well do a little bit of a spectacle as part of the news, as a bit of white noise, because this was something that I hadn't actually plugged previously. It kind of came about pretty quickly. So two things. First thing, please be sure to check out the Happiness in Darkness podcast. It's an Italian podcast headed by DJ Nick. He's a really fun, entertaining guy. He goes through all the comic book movies, and I was invited on to talk about one of my favorite Marvel films, Ant-Man. And I know that a lot of people may not find it the best MCU film. It's not by any measure or particular measure. It's not really the best, but it is one of my favorites, and it's something that I like rewatching. So anyway, go check out Happiness in Darkness. That's the superhero movie podcast. Also, as well, I'm just fresh off an appearance with taking Into the Night over to the Indianapolis, or the Indie PopCon virtual Comic Con 2020. So that was a lot of fun. I recorded a bonus con episode there. It will be released. I will release it through to the Patroonies, I guess, as a bonus episode. The episode itself is, look, if you're a fan, nothing really new. It was a primer, more so to introduce the podcast to potential new listeners, as well as to kind of garner some interest in Moon Knight. So for anyone that hasn't read any of the comics or familiar with the character, I did a little bit of a primer. I went through my collection and recommended some good reads, some good trades. But anyway, that will be up for that will be up for Patroonies a bit later on when it becomes available. I think there's also a video as well, so I'll put that all up there for our Patreon members. And speaking of Patreon members, I'd just like to give a huge shout out and a thank you to new executive producer, new Lockley tier Patreon member, to Justin Osgood. So a big thank you, Justin. Justin has been a Patroonie. He's upgraded his tier up to Lockley level, and I'm forever grateful for that. Thank you so much, Justin. It just really pushes and motivates me to do more and to try to make the show a lot bigger and better and quicker and faster and thicker. I don't know. Anyway, a huge thank you, Justin. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Loonies as well, again. I'm not sure if I do say this towards the end of the show. This is Future Ray still. But if you do want to become a member, just check out patreon.com/ITK Moon Knight for all the bonus tiers, all the tiers and all the bonus incentives. Go check it out. And I think that about wraps it for news that I can think of. Sorry, Loonies, not much happening. But anyway, I hope you do enjoy the rest of this episode. Yes, thank you, Future Ray, for that very insightful and amazingly exciting news, Chad. I don't know about you, I'm beside myself. Whatever it is they said, I think it's just fantastic, and I can't wait. Actually, I'll leave that for later. Anyway, okay. So, I guess if we've got nothing else to cover, unless there's anything else that you may want to mention, Chad, or anything else? No,
not really. I can't really think of anything. It's like there's kind of like a dead zone right now because we kind of got like that first wave of promised material from before the quarantine.
Yeah.
And now we're just kind of like waiting it out.
Yeah, true. Yeah, fair enough. Well, how about before we get into it, we'll just take a quick break. And when we come back, as always, Loonies, we will start to cover our issues of Dark Wolverine, Daken, 13, 14, and 15. So we'll be right back.
I am Connor from the House of L.
And I am Ray from the House of Zod.
We are two of the many survivors of Krypton's destruction, and we have made our home in Australia, and dare I say, have become Australians, for better or worse. But we have also decided to read Superman comics, read Superman books, watch Superman shows, cartoons, movies, basically everything Superman, and from an Australian perspective as well. Whether you're a seasoned fan, like me,
or whether you are coming in fresh, wide-eyed and wanting to learn more like me, then this podcast is for you. Join us for our bi-weekly adventures available on all good podcast catchers.
So just search for Last Sons of Krypton, a Superman podcast. We'll be coming to you from Australia or some cosmic dimension, wherever we are, that week.
Up, and away. Yes, welcome back, loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast, and I'm here with the Power of Chad. And we are going to cover, it is an Over the Moon arc review. So we're going to cover Dark Wolverine, Daken, issues 13, 14, and 15. It's an interesting one with Moon Knight. It's one I'm pleasantly surprised with, Chad. I mean, we'll get into it. But let me, why not? This is good for the opportunity. Let me just push this up. Okay, so can you see that?
Yep.
All right, so this is issue 13. We're going to get underway. This is one of the more, I think, popular covers that I've seen banding around. It's got Moon Knight in the armchair. Almost like as a psychiatrist talking to Daken, who's on the couch. So what we have... Oh, okay, it's gone really... Oh, wow. Okay, so we have... so the arc is called Moonwalk. It's a 3-parter, and it's writer Rob Williams with Mick Bertilorenzi, with Riley Rossmo on art. We have Cris Peter and Riley Rossmo on colours, VC's Cory Petit as letterer, Giuseppe Camuncoli and Frank Martin the cover art, Jared K. Fletcher designer. I'm just going to go through all of it, Chad, because it's here. Jody Lehope, assistant editor, Jeanine Schaefer editor, and Rick Lowe, the group editor. And there's the big wigs of Axel Alonso, Joe Quesada, Dan Buckley, and Alan Fine, all as editors and producers and creative officers. So this was cool. I didn't grab when this was potentially released. Do you know offhand, by any chance? Let me see. I'm just pulling it up.
I thought it was like 2012.
Oh yes, it's around
spring.
Yes, 2010. I've got here number 13. So 2010. So this was pretty cool. Let me see. There we go. Loonies, as usual, what we'll do is we'll go through a bare bones. Sorry, Chad, there's a bit of crackle. Are you okay? We'll go through the bare bones.
My cat's making noises.
We'll go through the bare bones, which is a synopsis for those who want like a summary of the whole arc. Then Chad and I will get into a bit more just some loose conversation on writing, art, themes, characterizations, references to other runs, and then we'll cap that off with a moon rating. It will be either a vanilla rating or patented KHONSHU's rating system. So let me just quickly pull that up. So before we get into any of that, we're going to throw to the bare bones. And again, I'm going to throw it to my future self, Ray, to give all the details. So Ray, future Ray, take it away. The bare bones for Daken, Dark Wolverine, issues 13 to 15. Credits to UncannyXmen.net. In Los Angeles, Daken and FBI agent Donna Keel enter into a tenuous relationship in order to take down the Claws Killer. After stopping a black market child smuggling ring, thanks to his underworld connection, Daken meets up with Donna at a Hollywood party. There, Daken relapses and takes a heat pill. Once he comes out of his stupor, he hurriedly tries to find Donna. In a darkened hallway, Donna hears the attacker while Daken is confronted by Moon Knight, who believes himself to be Wolverine. In Los Angeles, Daken begins to fight Moon Knight, the apparent Claws Killer. Eventually, they crash through the window and land on the street below. Meanwhile, Donna Keel finds the Claws Killer and he looks like Daken. Donna proceeds to give chase and ends up on the street. As Moon Knight and Daken continue to fight, Daken falls to the ground and thanks to the heat drug begins to suffer a heart attack. Determining not to die, Daken gets up and rushes off. Meeting up with Donna, Daken asks for her help, but Donna responds by shooting him in the head. As Moon Knight and Donna stand over the fallen body of Daken, the Claws Killer, a person who looks exactly like Daken, remarks that they got the Claws Killer. Guess they can all sleep safe tonight. While Daken attempts to recover in a hospital bed after being shot in the head by Donna Keel, Donna and Moon Knight collaborate in attempting to determine what has happened. As they do, Daken resides in limbo, sees Johnny Storm and fights against his demons. Eventually he is able to recover and kill some policemen as he leaves the hospital and proceeds to make his way to Marcus Roston's estate. At the same time, Donna has decided to do her own investigative work and ends up being Roston's pawn. He proceeds to then feed her another handful of heat pills. Yes, thank you, Future Ray, for that very concise and immaculately written synopsis. I say that with a pinch of salt. Anyway, before we get into it all, Chad, okay, overall impressions. What did you think of this arc Moonwalk in Dark Wolverine?
I don't know. I'm still suffering from the whole Bendis perception of Moon Knight using all the assorted personas of other Avengers. I'm just not down with that. I think it's interesting that, in the scene here, we see everyone talking amongst themselves in the theater, and then Wolverine's off in the corner.
Yeah.
It's weird to me because it's still going to be perceived by the other personalities. It's still Mark listening, but I to Wolverine's side just want to listen. I don't know. It just doesn't seem that effective, considering it's all on his head anyway.
Yep. I thought that exactly, that same point.
Anyway,
too.
That's just this part. I liked the run itself. It was really interesting. The whole Daken kind of being less of a rambunctious jerk.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I enjoyed it as well. I've hardly read anything to do with Daken. I think I spoke to you, Chad, about not really knowing that much about him. I've read him in The Return of Wolverine, one of those kind of tie-in spin-off minis with him and Sabretooth, and I think it's Lady Deathstrike. They get overrun by zombies looking for Wolverine. I've only really seen that. I haven't really read much of it. I totally agree with you. At the beginning, I was thinking that, because Wolverine's off to the side and he's munching away, but it's all in Mark's head, so how can that kind of be? I just thought, okay, well, it's probably some really multi-leveled, mental psychosis that Mark's going through, that he's able to do this. But I certainly felt the same way that you did as well. What I did like about this is he does take on, the identities that Bendis had introduced, and I guess it was fun to see someone else try to use those tools that Bendis instilled on Moon Knight. And for this one in particular, we'll get there a bit later, what I found very effective was when Moon Knight turned on his Wolverine persona and he started talking to Daken as if he was Wolverine. There's so many exchanges here that really are kind of like mind games. Even him with the detective as well. I can't remember. Is it Keel? Donna Keel? I could be totally wrong. So there are so many encounters between the two, and they really do dive deep into the psychology of some of the characters, and I found that quite interesting. Having read the arc, I just wanted to get your overall impressions. What did you think of Moonwalk? Sorry, the arc.
I thought it was nice to, actually have a decent Daken. I really enjoyed Donna Keel's character. She actually had substance to her, and she had her own mini arc within the series. With the heat and whatnot. Let's see. The villain was surprising. I didn't anticipate that. You kind of get a hint of it, but you're never quite sure.
Yeah. Was he in the early issues? Because I'd never heard Marcus Roston. Never heard of him in the arc, at least.
I don't know, man.
Yeah. But so you mentioned it got hinted at. What did you mean by that?
There were moments where it just didn't line up with Daken. He was obviously having blackouts and stuff like that. And it's okay, well, this has a few tropes going for it. Either we have a pretender, or we have possession.
Yeah, but I thought it was. The premise as well, the writing from Rob Williams, I thought was quite interesting because, dare I say, for a Marvel book, it kind of pushes the boundaries a bit. You have Daken, who's close to, if not already addicted to heat, the drug, and that's causing the blackouts, which is causing the question as to whether or not he's actually the Claws killer in LA. So I thought it was pretty risky from Rob Williams to do that. So props to the editor and the writer for going that route. But I can see what you mean about the kind of the tropey nature of it. But what I enjoyed, as I alluded to earlier, was there are a lot of exchanges between them, and the one that, if we're looking at a Moon Knight oriented kind of involvement in it, was his Logan impersonation, his best Logan impersonation to Daken, and I loved it because Daken was kind of like, "What the hell? You're not my dad." But Moon Knight just he just ignored all that, and he still kept on talking like Wolverine. I found that was quite cool, and he really got under his skin as well. Oh gosh, I don't know if I can pull up the page. I won't be able to now. But yeah, there's this exchange where they're on the street, and he's just like, "Oh, you're just kind of pissed off at me because I'm more well known, and you're overshadowed by my status, and I'm the better killer, or I'm the better
I'm the real deal, and you're just a knockoff."
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of that kind of going, and then later on, there's this iteration of Daken, whom I'm assuming is Marcus Roston as a shapeshifter or something. He presents himself as Daken to is it Donna? What's her name?
Donna Keel.
Donna Keel, when she's chasing him down the hallway and through the building, and he really kind of gets under her skin as well. So I kind of like that aspect of it. I found that more interesting than the actual premise itself, trying to find this Claws killer. Marcus Roston, I'm not too sure what to make of him. I don't even know who he is. By the end of this arc, you don't really know. I've read issue 16. It still kind of doesn't give too much away as to who or what he is, but he's a good enough villain in the fact that he's kind of wily, and he has them kind of running or questioning each other, like Donna Keel and Daken. So I found it was quite good. Well, what did you think of Moon Knight in this? How do you think he was portrayed in this? So basically, as we mentioned in the synopsis, Moon Knight, he gets he's in and around LA, so he wants to catch the Claws killer as well, and so he's got a few leads. He's found to be at that party, that kind of hoi polloi party of Hollywood, staking it out, and he gets a whiff of Daken. But yeah, what did you think of him? Number one, I thought Mark was misspelt, so that was a big... Did you catch that? Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, which is terrible. But apart from that, what did you think?
I liked his portrayal for the most part. It's just, it suffers the Bendis tinge. Mm-hmm. I'm just not keen on it, but aside from that, it's very Mark. Mm-hmm. Contrary-wise, I think that Daken was closer to being written as Mark than Moon Knight was. But
yeah, no,
just like the psychosis problems, just like having blackouts, and having a high opinion of himself, having these like intended like bits of responsibility. Where for Moon Knight, it's like saving his friends.
Yeah.
But for Daken, it's like saving face.
Yeah. It was a very interesting. I found he was doing a bit more sleuthing than anything as well. So he was kind of relegated to that. But on the whole, I thought he was portrayed decently enough. As I mentioned, he Williams kind of takes on the mantle from Bendis, and I think of what he's given, he gives it a nice spin, especially using it in a Daken book, and again, I'm going back to it, which is obviously the main kind of crux for me. It was Moon Knight's portrayal of Wolverine. Another interesting thing, and I thought it was really good to see from Moon Knight, was how he's fighting Daken as Wolverine, and he's getting sliced up. He's getting all like cuts everywhere. Then he
can't heal like Wolverine.
He can't, exactly, yeah. And then he has this internal monologue, or dialogue, with himself, and he switches to the Captain America persona, and he seems to fare a lot better then as well. And so I like that aspect, how he kind of changes mentally, but physically he changes his fighting style and stuff like that. And he actually gets the better of... he does, doesn't he? He gets the better of Daken.
Yeah, Daken's not healing from his wounds.
Yes.
And he takes a more tactical approach to it, and he just shuts him down.
Yep. And then he has, again, another little surprise. It's not often you get these little things, but then Daken says, I'm having a heart attack. And it's not really... And then what I found really funny was then Moon Knight's going... Are you serious? Are you serious? Okay, 911. Come on, someone go. Like, they're in the middle of like a to the death fight, and then the guy's going, I'm having a heart attack.
Time out.
Yeah. And Midnight's going, are you for real? Okay, then truce. But yeah, so I did like that aspect, how he did jump to the Captain America phase of it. Obviously, yeah, totally missing the Jake Lockley, Stephen Grant, Mark Spector aspects of Moon Knight. But, for the most part, I mean, Williams used Captain America and Wolvie, I think, pretty effectively in this for Moon Knight. Personality-wise, I think he was okay. There's nothing wrong with him. He wasn't over the top. He had a couple of, cynical remarks here and there, but you expect that from Moon Knight. But he wasn't overly kind of Charlie Houston, gritty and like a terror, or like the devil. He was very much like a caped guy. Even Donna Keel's like, well, this is later on where she tries to deal with him. This was in issue 16, but she kind of doesn't talk down to him, but like just relegates him to like one of those other costume heroes.
Freaks.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so references, we've touched upon the Bendis run. This is obviously a heavily referenced run, because he's using the identities that Bendis has given Moon Knight. How about themes? Any themes here that you could pick up on? Obviously, there's a daddy-son issue here that Daken seems to always have. But yeah, anything else? The relationship between Donna and Daken. That's a tenuous one. She doesn't believe him, right? She thinks that he's obviously the killer. He actually brings her in from the church. They have a meeting in the church, and he says, "No, I actually want to help you catch the killer as well." And there's that inner monologue with Keel, where she goes, "What have I just done? I've actually brought this killer to the crime scene, and I'm all alone, and he could rip me to shreds." And so she's questioning herself. I thought that was quite interesting too.
One thing I thought was kind of on that whole spiel about the father-son thing with Daken and Wolverine was in that dream state that he was in when he got his brains blown out. Yeah. And everything was very, like, that dream sequence was amazing.
There were a few dream sequences where there's a real shift in art. Actually, we should talk about the art, because I found those sequences really cool, like very non-mainstream comics, kind of more independent kind of style. Really good, and a really good use of art, because it's him, it's his mental state. And yeah, no, I found that really good. The colours, especially the colours, were done very well there, so props to the colorists. But yeah, what did you think of the main art as well?
The main art was pretty clean. Sometimes, like, the faces looked a little off, like not even like the shape-shifting, which I think that Marcus's shape-shifting, so to say, is actually him implanting images in people's heads.
That's right.
Because he makes that moment where he's like, "I'm also slightly telepathic."
Oh, he does say that? Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I missed that as well. No, you're right. I mean, with the heat, he does say it. Again, I think this is in issue 16, though. He mentions to Donna, people usually take only 2 pills before I'm able to completely control them and manipulate them. He says, "Donna, you've taken 5 pills, so good on you." Yeah. So there's that. So definitely it must be the drugs, and yeah, there must be some sort of like mind control thing there. So okay, because I wasn't sure whether it was tech or something, like he was using, because the way that it was drawn with the green, and it wasn't pixelated as such, but there seemed to be some sort of shimmer. I thought maybe there was some sort of like tech, I don't know, light bending stuff, but it was hard to catch because he's so confident, isn't he?
Yeah.
So you just don't know what he and there's that thing. There's a thing as well with him. Like you can dive into the psyche of him and about the. He seems very confident, used to getting what he wants. You know, and then getting bored, and so what does he do? I'll go out on a killing spree. Why not? Because life seems boring. So yeah, quite interesting. So references with that. The art was good. Yeah, I thought the main art was. I actually liked it. I thought it was really good. I thought it was above. It was very clean, as you say. I thought it was above average. And yeah, no, definitely like the colours of that. There was quite a lot of scary stuff there. A lot of darker stuff with Daken. And there's one bit where he dreams of. It's his Japanese mum. I can't remember her name. But the baby starts sprouting claws, what the mum's holding, and they both kind of turn towards him, and their eyes have bled out. There's nothing in there, so there's a bit of a. I think he needs a session on the couch. Poor Daken. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, sorry.
Just with Daken, like in that library scene where all of a sudden Johnny Storm turns into Wolverine.
Yeah.
And he has all of his like features really stretched out and like super gaunt. It's not very Wolverine. He just seemed like a oversized skeleton.
Yeah. Like a really warped version of yeah.
And that all seemed very Bill, like
It did actually. Yeah, very good. Yeah, no, true. No. I think I remember thinking something like that as well. Yeah, for sure, because that art actually lends itself to a little bit of Bill Sienkiewicz as well. That those dream sequences, if you look at it, it's very reminiscent of it. So yeah, no, for sure. Do you know the reference why Johnny Storm is in there at all? Do you know the history of Daken? Is there some sort of... I mean, it seemed very random that he was in his thoughts. Did they encounter each other? Was there... Yeah.
I can't think of anything. Like,
I'm
sure someone's going to be lighting us up in the chat, but...
Yeah. I just thought it was more like mutants and stuff, and more X-Men oriented stuff that Daken was involved in. But yeah, the art was very good. I mean, thematically, there's not that much more. I don't know, Chad, anything else that you could... that you'd like to point out with it? It's... I mean, the whole arc itself, as I mentioned, Williams does really well in... I guess the arcs bleed into each other. So there didn't seem to be a definite ending by 15 for me. I mean, because they're still searching. They haven't caught the Claws killer. If anything, they've announced who the villain is, which is Marcus Roston, which kind of makes you think, okay, now the party's just starting, Whereas then if you look at issue 16, it's a new arc, it's part 1 of something. So they very much kind of bleed into each other. Did you like Williams's writing anyway, like overall?
Yeah, it's just
not
the
the
characters.
Yeah,
like that's the only downside. I liked the story. I liked the way that everything was written into the story, like events that took place.
Yeah.
It all made a lot of sense. It seemed pretty organic, except for magically running into the heat dealer at that one Hollywood party. It's like,
yeah, Mr. Meat. Was that Mr. Meat? Oh no, the heat dealer. Yeah, exactly. Well, you put that down to they did their homework so well. Daken went to that party. They kind of narrowed it down, and funnily enough, Keel didn't have anything to do with it because she was meant to be the bait, wasn't she? It was just Daken going into the men's, to the gents to get it. Yeah,
and then have a little bit of a trip, and comes out wearing sunglasses.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, another bit of Williams' writing which I really liked, because I generally liked his writing. Conceptually, I mean it's fun enough, the whole idea that Daken, it's not original, but that he's lost his healing factor, this whole thing about blackouts and trying to find out who this killer is. It is exciting though, because it taps into that particular genre of a whodunit, and could it well be yourself that has done it. But there was a little passage as well of when Daken gets shot in the head. Do you remember that? And it goes through biologically, like the brain tissue, what happens when the bullet is flying at that speed in the air, how it's actually gone through the tissue before, I can't remember, before even something is broken, like it's that quick, and how if you get shot in the heart, you've got a good 10 seconds to kind of utter your last words, but if you get shot in the brain, you're pretty much gone, like straight away. I kind of like that level of detail. It does sound a little gory, but it really did make it a lot more than just Daken getting shot in the head. It actually gave it a lot more. So yeah, and I really enjoyed that.
There was one bit that I had to remark to one of the guys over at Moon Knight Corps about. They were talking about how something about like how many drugs were being used.
Oh yeah.
And it was Moon Knight talking about it to Keel. And so it's just like, wow, this seemed precognitive from 2012.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, you were talking about when a bullet leaves the muzzle of a gun, heading for your brain, it's unraveling somewhere in the region of 2,000 miles per hour. Keanu Reeves couldn't dodge one or any of the bullets the Wachowskis could have delivered in a coherent Matrix sequel.
That was nice
ooh.
little jab there. But hey, we're all thinking in it, right? So
there are 8 cranial bones designed to keep your brain safe. A bullet slides through them faster than the speed at which your cerebral tissues tear.
yes,
It's like, well, that certainly explains why dropped healing factor could keep him from even experiencing true death, because the bullet just slides through.
Yeah.
It wouldn't feel like there was any injury.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's actually his healing factor is not gone, right? But they also make mention in the hospital that it seems to be what's kind of keeping him. Again, I'm not sure if this is 16 or not, but it's what's keeping him kind of alive, which I found interesting because it must be there in some capacity. So yeah. I mean, I shot in the head, and you have Moon Knight as well giving mouth to mouth, which was really really cool. A bit of a noble cause from Moon Knight, showing that even the guy that he's after, who's potentially the Claws killer, he doesn't want him to die, which is very different to what Moon Knight usually can do. But he's trying to save him. It's all about just bringing him to justice, rather than wreaking vengeance for KHONSHU.
I think it's also the fact that Daken has been on record as being pretty morally flexible, but not really detained by any alignment. He's not good, he's not bad. He's done some bad things, but he's done some good things. It's like,
Yeah.
So I think Moon Knight has trouble just straight up killing him for that.
Yeah, and I'm not sure
because he has his own bad history.
He does, and I'm not sure if it's Moon Knight as well, but someone does mention that Daken is an ex-Avenger, right? So he has a level of respect, in that capacity at least.
But he's also a cop killer and a mass murderer.
Yeah, true. Yeah, because he did that. I read that the little blurb before. So previously, before issue 13, he did some stuff, right? It's not like the killer or not. I think they mentioned he didn't he bomb a car or something? He did something. No, maybe.
I didn't read that part of it.
Okay, might have been my overactive imagination. No, okay. Well, he did something. I think because that's the whole thing. He's playing for becoming the kingpin of LA crime as well. So that's against him. Yeah, and he, again, I think it is in 16, but he sets up that safe house with all those criminals, all the underworld figures. Did you read? You read 16, right? Did you read? Yeah,
I did.
So he creates a safe house, and Marcus comes in as disguised as him, and he blows them all away, and in a very graphic nature, he puts their heads on the platters and stuff. Very, very dark stuff. He puts their heads on the platters.
It seemed like something Red Hood would do.
Yeah. But, so Daken was making a play for being the leader of organised crime in LA. So he's not a total angel, in that sense. So I can see why they all think that he's the Claws killer, but he isn't. We know Marcus is. Another thing, just about art, a little point. It's interesting because Williams takes a lot from Bendis, but just noting the look of Moon Knight himself is very much more of the Charlie Huston, David Finch run. Most notably, that big dip in the hood that's so prominent. More prominent than any other, I think, hooded characters. It's almost at this time, like you think it's starting to become a bit of a Moon Knight thing, but they've kind of dropped that off like lately. But yeah, I found he was just. I found he was depicted more like the 2006 version of Moon Knight than the Alex Maleev, because that was a bit closer to to when this was brought out as well. Actually, it was around the same time, 2011. I think 2011 was the Bendis run, right? This is 2010, so around probably the same time, I think. Obviously, because Bendis is credited with the Wolverine, Captain America, Spider-Man thing. So shortly after the Bendis run, then yeah.
I blame Assassin's Creed on the hood.
Have you seen the movie? Was that with Michael Fassbender?
Yeah, it was with him, but I haven't seen it.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
I heard that it absolutely bombed. It's just like,
Well, video game movies seem to bomb, unfortunately. I don't know. It's a bad, unfortunate curse. Except for Mila Jovovich in Resident Evil. Didn't that have like so many sequels and stuff?
I think there were like 6 or 7 sequels.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's kind of like its own like little genre.
Yeah. Okay. Well, unless there's anything else, Chad, I'm still trying to desperately share the screen so I can show you. I can show you the moon rating system, but I don't think the gods are shining on us tonight here with that there, Chad. Anyway, Chad, as I was saying, unless there's anything else you want to cover for this, shall we give this a rating? Encapsulating all that we've read, the writing, the art and stuff, and looking also a big part of the part that Moon Knight has to play in this. What would you give Dark Wolverine Daken issues 13, 14 and 15 titled Moonwalk?
I would give it a 7.5, Ray.
Fantastic. And a little bit of bias there because of the Bendis. Fair enough. That's a pretty good score. I would give it. I did enjoy it myself. So Chad's given a last quarter, i.e., a 3/4 moon for that. I don't know. Oh gosh, I'd have to give it maybe something slightly less. It was compelling. I did enjoy it. I'll give it a 7, and I'll go for a high-end Waning Gibbous. So a 7 out of 10. I think it was a very enjoyable read. I think the art was great, especially those dream sequences or the mental sequences of Daken.
Definitely.
But what doesn't elevate it to anything more than that, I guess, would be as an arc. I guess. I mean, it doesn't seem like an arc. It's and full credit to Williams for writing it like that, like a continued serial, because hey, people love that. A lot of people talking about how comics and writing is catered more towards the trade paperback. Williams is giving you a larger story, and I think that's great. But if we're looking at a 3-parter here, I think it doesn't resolve enough towards the end to really kind of stick a landing. You do get little things with Marcus Roston, but nothing's closed out. Like, he's not brought to justice. He's used in the next arc as well, and again, it just continues on. Moon Knight, he's even his guest appearance in there, he lingers on because he actually bleeds over to the next arc as well, where Detective Keel tries to get rid of him. So his cameo appearance was good here. I found it a curiosity more than anything that Williams was using the Bendis identities of Cap Wolvie and Spider-Man, but I did love the way that he did use Wolverine and Captain America as part of Moon Knight's personalities. It's not his book. I would have loved to have seen a little bit more of Moon Knight, but I loved how he kind of was like the reveal at the end of issue 13. I mean, that was pretty badass. So a 7, I think, would be a decent enough score. Right. Well, that takes us to the end of this review. like to thank you, Chad, so much for joining us for this time. A little mention to the patroonies. Unfortunately, due to some technical issues, the video was cut short due to Zoom being a little bit difficult with us. So we weren't able to continue with Zoom. We've continued on another platform, but it's all available as audio on a podcast. But Chad, a huge thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. And, when it's time for future self, just give him a ring.
Yeah, exactly as well. I'll be touching base with you again, Chad, when our future selves have to round out this episode. But a huge thank you to Chad. Next phase, at this point in time, I can't tell you what. I don't have the sheet with me. I'm sure it's going to be a cracker. Yeah, but thanks heaps, Chad, again. So next phase, keep your eyes out for what that will entail. So you can also write into us if you want to contact us on itkmoonknight@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Discord, Get Vocal, on our Patreon page, and Podchaser as well. We're also part of the Collective, a band of an informal network of podcasters that love to talk about all geek and comic related stuff, if not character based. So you can find stuff like We Are Venomaniacs. They concentrate on Venom and in his comics and such, or Inner Demons, Ghost Rider, or Adelaide Rising, the Inhumans podcast, which is good as well. Finally, if you want to become a member, please consider our Patreon at patreon.com/itkmoonknight. And again, a big thank you to our sponsors, Hello Headphones. Just use the code ITKMoonKnight to get 10% off their online store. And a very grateful Dreamland Comics. Use the code MOON to get 20% off any of your purchases. So a big thank you again. Before we head off, Chad, any more final words for our loony listeners out there?
Don't trust Zoom.
That's right. Don't trust Zoom. Absolutely. I've got to find another platform that's a lot more stable. Anyway, loonies, with that, stay safe, be good, and as always, may KHONSHU watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.